Hello World Wide Web, I'm Leprechaun, the internet personality of the best hair. And I've got a bit of a different second video for you this week. This one actually tying into As I review these movies, I do the rounds on the internet doing research, finding tidbits of trivia here and there, and of course seeing what holes I can poke in the plot along the way. As you might have caught in my Leprechaun 2 review, there were entire different scenes and more characters missing from the final cut of the film. Allegedly. As I said, I do my research here and there for the video, and for this video I wanted to make extra sure that I got some real sources for these claims, so I dug extra deep, and I found everything that I could on the IMDb trivia page and Leprechaun fan wiki. So take this with an entire mountain of salt. I don't have nearly enough information to verify any of this, and honestly, the more I dig and more nothing I come up with, the less likely I believe these claims to be true. But I would at least like to explore the possibility that Leprechaun 2 was going to be so much more big and grandiose and lead to an entirely different Leprechaun 3 that went in all kinds of crazy directions. And there was a woodchipper. I want to believe. So let's dig into the tale of the Leprechaun 2 that almost was, and Leprechaun 3 that we never got, Bride of the Leprechaun, and its follow-up, The Trial of the Leprechaun. As I said, Bride of the Leprechaun was allegedly a Leprechaun 2, but different. In bigger ways than you might think. For one thing, Morty was said to be a relatively minor character in this early version of the story, and the love triangle between Cody, Bridget, and Ian was a much bigger deal. So much so, their friends were involved. Yeah, despite all logic and reason, somehow all these guys actually had even more friends. After Cody dropped Bridget off at the go-kart track, we get a whole ton of stuff dropped in our laps. Like a bit of dialogue pointing out that Ian and Bridget used to date. Up until he cheated on her, but yeah, no bother, he also bullied Cody. So I'll go ahead and assume that he wasn't actually her friend in this version of the movie, he just happened to work at the go-kart track. The go-kart track is also where we meet up with the cut characters, Bridget's friend Mandy, as well as Ian's friend Lyle. They go way back, bullying Cody together. Lyle is the one who attempts to schmooze up to Bridget in this version of events, taking her home, getting rejected, and then, of course, being lured by the Leprechaun into diving into a woodchipper. Though, I suppose, if I'm being honest, the woodchipper does make less sense in this movie because they are still able to identify the body, even though it's just a pile of meaty chunks that smells like disappointment and Axe body spray. Not entirely sure what transpired after that because the draft skips ahead to Ian showing up at Cody's place like, "Hey, Bridget's missing, Lyle has been pureed, and I demand to know what you did." Cody's like, "Hey, don't worry, the scene with me and the roses had to have existed in this version because I can convince you that it was a leprechaun with the coin." As such, Ian decides to help Cody in his quest to save Bridget, while Ian secretly wants Bridget for himself and actually hates Cody. Wait, how's that a secret? Those are like his only character traits. Well, it's not so secret towards the end of the movie where Ian throws Cody in front of the Leprechaun's go-kart and steals the gold coin from him. So when they go to the Leprechaun lair, Ian is bamboozled by false Bridget and hands the gold coin to the Leprechaun, which turned out to be the real milk chocolate, and so the Leprechaun hangs Ian. And then Cody dives in with a wrought iron, stabs the Leprechaun, he explodes, the end, they walk off towards the sunset. But as you have realized by now, this is only part one of this really, really strange draft. We still have Trial of the Leprechaun taking place immediately after Leprechaun 2. This time, when Cody and Bridget leave the lair thinking, hey, let's grab a bite to eat, the logical thing happens and they are surrounded by police who believe that Cody went on a killing spree. Bridget's like, no, that was a leprechaun, but of course they don't believe her. Also, according to the write-up, they were pretty sure that this was going to be a lot lower budget, and the way they were going to deal with that little problem was by having considerably less Warwick Davies this time around. The strategy was simple. Remember Jason Goes to Hell? That. The Leprechaun explodes at the end of Leprechaun 2, but Ian was hanging right there. The Leprechaun does a little hop, skip, and soul jump, and bam! The Leprechaun returns, but this time considerably taller and weaker. Also looking pretty much normal as Ian instead of that thing that Scott transformed into in Leprechaun 3. Either way, Cody is arrested and spends most of the movie getting the shit kicked out of him in a cell by the officer who just so happened to be Lyle's father. Bridget needs to help him, so she enlists the help of her best friend Mandy, and they go forth to find a lawyer.
Care to join me in a belt of scotch? It's 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, but I haven't slept in days.
Failing to find a decent attorney, they end up going to court with a public defender, but they still figure it's okay. I mean, Cody didn't murder anybody, so there's no evidence that he murdered anybody, so they should be fine. Except, who should happen to show up as the star witness in the trial but Ian, possessed by the Leprechaun? He's like, oh yeah, saw the whole thing. That Cody guy? Man, what a douche. Threw Lyle into a woodchipper, ran down that poor security guard with a go-kart, killed that poor waiter, and even teleported me entire pot of gold into Marty's belly, leaving him in pain and agony, begging me to... yeah, that Cody is one sick fuck. So considering their entire defense is trust me bro, they needed to come up with something drastic. Fortunately for them, there just so happened to be a handy-dandy shaman, and Bridget was like, hey, got a problem. Leprechaun possessed my dead ex and is trying to frame my boyfriend. Got any ideas? He's like, oh, sure, I can teach you a spell that weakens the supernatural and forces them to show themselves. How convenient. So the next day at court, Bridget takes the stand and is like, bibbidi-bobbidi-boo, and bam! The leprechaun spirit leaves Ian's body, but just as quickly hops into the body of Officer Murphy, who whips out his gun and begins mowing down everyone in the courtroom. Except for Cody and Bridget, that is. Plot armor saves the day once again, and they escape. And I know this synopsis isn't the most detailed, but if the shaman left out that little caveat, that was kind of a dick move. Furthermore, Ian comes to after this, now free of the leprechaun, but not of the leprechaun's influence, as the leprechaun had altered his memories and he truly believes that Cody is a mass-murdering psychopath. Cody, on the other hand, joins Bridget as they return to the shaman like, okay, that worked, but how do we kill the thing? The shaman's like, oh, that's simple. Just do the same spell, like a bunch more times. Each time it weakens its spirit and eventually it'll die. Probably. With that, Murphy bursts in the hut and boom, the shaman is dead. It's climax time! Leprechaun Murphy shows up, everyone shows up! Cody and Murphy do battle, decided by the classic kick to the crotch. But Cody's upper hand is all for naught when Ian shows up along with all his jock friends, who begin to beat the crap out of Cody. But Bridget interjects like, actually, Cody's innocent. It was a leprechaun who possessed you for most of the movie, until recently jumping into the body of Officer Murphy over there. Well, shit, that's all you had to say. Ian shoots Murphy, causing the leprechaun to hop bodies once more, this time possessing Cody. So if instead of explaining it, she just did the spell again, probably would have saved a whole lot of time and resulted in one less dead body. And you can forget about Cody being all cute, cuddly, and innocent as Lepra Cody begins murdering the fuck out of Ian's jock friends. However, he does have enough strength to fight through and tell Bridget, hey, the leprechaun's almost dead already, cast the fucking spell. And so she does, knocking the leprechaun out of Cody and killing it, just before Lepra Cody can kill Ian. But the leprechaun spirit grabs Cody's soul on the way down to hell, dragging him with. Yep, this two-parter ends on a dour note, as Cody goes to hell and Ian the douchebag is left to console Bridget for her loss, and maybe finish getting that poon from earlier. And we get sequel bait on top of it, with the last scene allegedly being Cody walking up to the leprechaun in hell and trying to strike a deal with him as a way to get back to Earth. So that was something. Considering we're talking about a movie that doesn't exist, I can't be too upset about it. But it sure was a wild ride now, wasn't it? The minor differences in the second movie don't seem to do too much, but they would have set up the trial of the leprechaun and... wow! So that begs the question, is this real or just something someone made up on the internet to see if a stupid YouTuber would one day trip across their fanfiction and run to make a video about it? I don't know. Allegedly, there were tidbits of the original draft of Leprechaun 2 in early teasers for it, and reshoots were done to remove characters and expand the role of Morty. This would make sense in a way to ensure that Leprechaun 2 didn't set up a movie that perhaps they weren't the most enthused to produce, for obvious reasons. However, it is not like Leprechaun 1 didn't end on sequel bait and Leprechaun 2 ignored that just fine. My thoughts? This Leprechaun 2 could have been a little more interesting than the one we got, but setting up a Leprechaun sequel whose big angle is it's a Leprechaun movie without the Leprechaun is not the best idea. Even if they managed to find horror comedy out of it, I doubt Leprechaun fans would think of it nearly as fondly as the Leprechaun 3 we did get. And since it's a hypothetical movie I'm talking about here anyway, don't expect a rating. I can't review something that doesn't exist. Thank you all for watching. I've been Shado. And remember, sometimes the woodchipper ain't worth it.
ISinspiration.com It's been a long millennium for the leprechaun. He's had no one to care for his needs.
Ooh, right, calls to action. Like the video. Really helps. Or dislike. YouTube doesn't care which one you do as long as there's engagement. Ooh, comments. What did you think of Leprechaun 2 and 3 hypothetical versions? Bride of the Leprechaun, the Trial of the Leprechaun. Were they real or just some strange fever dream someone typed out online and now it's an urban legend? Also, Leprechaun without the Leprechaun. That brings up Jason without Jason. Jason Goes to Hell. I reviewed that one. Boom, right there for the end screen element. And also, boom, there's the algorithmically selected video of whatever. Which one would you like to click on? Did I remember to plug my Patreon?